Episode 81, Enjoy Your 24. This is Alex Knight, Mo's producer. Mo decided to take a back seat today, and he wants me to interview him. Mo's a 28-year-old podcaster from North Vancouver. He's been doing this for about 4 years now. Started Enjoy Your 24 in 2020 at the start of the pandemic. It started out more of as a sports podcast, an homage to Kobe after that awful tragedy. So I'm going to talk to Mo a little bit about his podcasting adventures, how he got into it, why he wanted to do it in the first place. So, Mo, what compels somebody to get on the microphone when they have no experience? What did you feel that you had to say? Why did you want to do this?
It starts off as a kid, man. And I think as a kid, I wanted to do something cool. I always felt like, my mom, became a family doctor. We immigrated from Iran. And, I saw her work back from literally nothing, from scratches, to become a family doctor. And she had to take her MCATs again and, do the TOEFL, which is like an English exam, like a second language, right? So for me, man, ever since I remember like high school, elementary, I always felt like I wanted to do something cool with my life. And for me, to be honest, I think the love of talking and listening started at a really young age. Like, I remember in high school, the fondest memories I've ever had, dude, was playing ball for 3 hours, going to dinner with the boys, and then standing outside the restaurant and talking for another 2.5 hours. Just shooting the shit, busting each other's balls, debating, arguing, messing with each other. And it was like some of the fondest memories I've ever had, man. Like, I had a group of friends in Richmond. They know who they are. It was the best experiences I've ever had. And I remember, having those conversations and those sessions. That's what we used to call them. We call them sessions with the guys. And then, I would drive all the way from North Van to Richmond. And then on the drive home from those sessions, it would be like 2 a.m. because we would just lose track of time. I would think in the car, I'm like, damn, man, like that was so fun. The shit we talked about, it was so funny. I wish, and I always thought to myself, I'm like, I wish that was recorded so I could like go back and like listen and, laugh again. And, if there was something funny or interesting that was said, I can go back and like remember it and reminisce about it. And from there, man, like I remember even like one-on-one hangouts with my buddies. One of the coolest things and one of the most fun things that I would do with my friends, we would just talk. We would just talk for hours on end. And I would honestly leave my hangouts or, hanging out with people or just a couple people thinking, damn, that was so, I got so much out of that, right? Like I would leave feeling so fulfilled and satisfied. And there was just like this euphoric feeling coming from it, just like talking, listening, debating, challenging each other's opinions, busting each other's balls, right? And back then, like in high school, I didn't know what a podcast was. We didn't know what podcasting was. There was no.
What year was that?
I mean, high school,
well, let's say grade 12.
Grade 12, like 2012, 2013. Okay. Right? So I always thought in my head, like, this would be so cool if we could, record this and just listen to this just for memories, right? Not even necessarily to put it on the internet or to get views or clicks or anything like that, but just to like listen back on it and be like, damn, these are the things that we thought were funny back then, and now things have completely changed. Like that's just so cool to me. And like a big thing for me, one of the most things I value is memories, right? Like I always take photos, I always take videos, and
we're really privileged now to be able to do that too. Because remember, 30 years ago, there were no cell phones. People had, the few people that had cameras, they were very expensive. And we had film. It was all analog back then, right? So you had to develop film. So it was an effort to even get a half decent photo. You had to actually know what you're doing. So modern technology has made all of this so easy for us. But one thing, I don't know if you think about this, but because of that fact, because it's so easy for us to take these photos and have all these memories and have tens of thousands of photos and videos to look at, do you think that creates like an overabundance of stuff to look at? Like, do you think that, first of all, do you think we're really going to actually go back and look at that stuff, say 10, 20 years from now? Because I was worried about that because, not everybody, not everyone backs up their data to the cloud too. So I always worry, and I hear these horror stories of how people have lost all these family photos because they didn't back up their data. Do you worry about that? Like we're taking too many photos,
No.
not caring about what we're doing?
I actually love going back and looking at my photos and memories from 8-10 years ago. Dude, there's been times where I would say back when I was 10, 11, 12, I wish I took more photos. I have my old cell phones with my, like, the fucking, remember the Razr?
Oh yeah,
that was my
I had
first,
one of those.
Dude, that was my very first phone. And then after the Razr, I took also, okay, that's the thing. I've always been the guy that takes a lot of photos and videos. So I have a bunch of shit on my Razr that I can't access because I actually don't know where my Razr is. But it kills me because, dude, there was some funny ass shit in there. And then from that, I remember one of the parts of my life, one of the phases of my life that I really regret not having is when I went to Ohio. I lived in Ohio for a year after high school. I don't think you know that.
No, why did you go to Ohio? Tell
it was for basketball, for prep school. And I actually got a separate cell phone. It was an American phone. And I still have that phone, but I could not tell you what the code was to get in because it has a code. And it was a random number. It was a random code that I just wouldn't be able to guess in a million. And there's a lot of shit in that. And no, man, I think I'm one of those guys. It's to a fault. It's not healthy at times because there are a lot of times that I go through my camera roll and scroll back 5-6 years, and if there was a time in my life, I mean, I can tell you there was a time in my life about 5-6 years ago where I was not in a good place. And so looking at those photos and videos really bring up those emotions that I had once. You could call it a trigger response, whatever. But because
painful memories, you try to forget those, right?
And then like the photos that I have of myself during that time, I wasn't very happy with myself back then for whatever reason. And when I just look at photos of myself, I think of that guy, I think of that Mo, and the destructive thoughts he was thinking, the sinister feelings he had. I think to look back on that and see how much I've grown and continue to grow, it's pretty cool, because I think, like, dude, I have like 10,000 photos in my phone that dates back from all the way to like 8 years ago.
That's a lot.
But you can see, like, it's cool to see just like the progression of how I looked, my haircuts, just, me getting older and the different the changes that are coming out. So no, man, I think.
But see, the thing that I always bugs me is, and if you want to take a photo of something or someone or capture a moment, that's not a problem. But what I have a problem is when I see people just taking photos of their food. It's like stuff like that. Do you really think you're gonna? Why? Why are we taking photos of food? Why is that important to people? It's not like we're gonna really. You're gonna 5 years from now, are you gonna be looking at that steak that you had at the keg?
Yeah, you think, really? You think you are in the moment, but then.
What's the thing is that there's being in the moment and having a great time with friends for me is super important because I like to put my phone down. Now, maybe at the end of the night I'll take a photo of everybody to capture that moment, but I don't like to have my phone in my hand at all times. I like to just be there and experience the event. Even with concerts, and I've tried to not do this of snapping, videos in a darkly lit room at a concert. It's just fucking enjoy the music, man. Just enjoy what's going on around you. Everybody's got their fucking cell phones out. It's like, why? I don't understand it.
Well, I don't think like I said, man, it's about looking back on those memories. Like there's maybe
Yeah.
for you a concert isn't a big deal, but for me, I like to look back on those memories and think to my because when I look at those videos and those photos, I can literally it's as if I put myself in the time machine and I go back to that time and I can actually feel the nostalgic feelings coming up. So
Right.
it's almost like
Okay.
I put myself back into that place and time when it happened, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a bad thing. Like people like saying, "Oh, like enjoy the concert." Sure, I'm not saying keep your phone out the whole goddamn time, but to snap a few pics and few videos of
Right.
the thing isn't harmful at all. And I think everyone should be doing it. I mean, looking back on your shit and thinking, "God damn, that was a good time." Dude,
Okay. Fair enough.
I
Fair
think it's
enough.
therapeutic at times. I mean, you go back to a time that you were happy, a festival that you had a freaking great time at. And you're like, "Damn, man, do you remember this time?"
Yeah.
Like,
Sure. There's nothing wrong with
dude,
that.
come on.
Yeah. Tell me more about your time in Ohio because I haven't really talked to you about that. So, did you experience any kind of, was there a bit of culture shock? Because you moved from a Canadian city to a major US city. Everyone, people talk different, people act different. What was that
Yeah.
like? Because a year's not that long, but did that 12 months feel like a long time? How did you like living there? And why did you move back?
Yeah. Well, technically, it was 9 months, man. And prep school was one of those things that was starting to come on to the rise for basketball for guys coming out of high school.
Explain to people, like for people that don't know sports, though.
So
What is
prep
prep
school
school? What does
is
that mean?
essentially a grade 13, and it's prep. It's preparing you. It's preparatory for college, right? So it's a bit of a gap year where you can go play basketball, go to different tournaments. You play different junior colleges because that's sort of the same league you're in. And you get scouted, you get in contact with different coaches, and it's a place to just get more opportunity and more looks on you. And with my situation, it was we lived in a hotel. We lived in a hotel in Geneva, Ohio, and all we did was play basketball, chill, eat, and do the same thing. And it was a cultural shock, man, because there were guys, everyone was from the States except one guy from actually BC, Vancouver, my boy.
Okay.
But everyone else was, we had guys from Pittsburgh, New York, Chicago, Maryland. We had a guy from Spain,
Wow.
Wales. But man, the memories we made were priceless. I mean, I think that year was one of the biggest moments of growth for me in terms
Mhm.
of me changing and me evolving into who I am today.
Like you're talking the transition from, okay, I'm a boy, now I'm becoming a man. I'm starting.
Yeah, and just kind of more confidence. I think that experience because everyone there really jived with each other. I mean, we were really close. We were really tight knit. I mean, we had issues, right? I mean, you got how many dudes? 12, 13, nah, even more. Like 20 dudes in one hotel.
Gee.
Literally they designated one hotel floor to all the boys. And we each had a roommate. My roommate was from New Rochelle, New York. Shout out B Wills, man. One of my closest friends I found from there, Sebastian Sabago, the guy that actually made the logo for this podcast.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I talked to him. I actually texted him this morning. Answer me back, homie. I think it was hard because it was the first time I ever left home for a long time. I mean, I remember the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I was like crying every day. And like one of my buddies from across the hall, he came in, he opened the door, he's like, "Yo, Mo," and I'm just like, "Matt, yo, I can't right now." And then he's just like, I hear you, Mo, I hear you. And then he knew exactly what was going on. But man, I think that experience with so many different personalities, right? And Americans, right? Like let's not
Yeah.
sugarcoat it. Let's say it how it is. Americans are different. Their attitudes are different. Their behaviors are different.
But did everyone accept each other?
Oh,
though?
dude,
like, no matter what, you guys all came from different walks of life, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. Like, did you guys all get along?
We all got along, man.
Yeah.
We all got.
Well,
I mean,
that's
there were trials and tribulations. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're a bunch of 17, 18-year-old dudes living under the same roof.
Sure.
All striving to get to one goal
Right.
and getting offers, getting looks, playing well,
Yeah.
improving your game. Like these are all. I mean,
So
You
you
know,
were
we had
pretty
arguments,
serious
dude.
about
We had
basketball
fights.
too,
Huh?
right? You were pretty serious about.
yeah. I mean,
But what were your aspirations though? Did you want to be a player? Did you want to be a coach? Like, where did you see yourself, like career wise? What did you?
I honestly like the reason why I went to prep was I wanted to play against better players. I wanted to move away. I wanted to, every kid's dream was to play Division 1, but
What does that mean? Division 1.
Division 1 basketball, it's a level.
Okay.
During that time you're a little bit delusional. You think you can make it, you think you can play that level. You're a little bit naive and
Maybe a little arrogant too.
arrogant,
Cocky.
cocky, yeah. But I remember going and I got a couple offers from a couple of D2 and D3 schools. Well, I got interest from D2, but I got a couple offers from D3. One of them was like fucking Pennsylvania Tech or some shit. I don't know. And I just thought to myself, like one of the biggest reason was like my mom really was behind me in going to that because she knew the amount of growth I was going to get.
It's good to have somebody supportive like that.
Yeah, I mean, my mom is, my everything,
Yeah.
that. Like, she's my ride or die, my fucking Harley Davidson, I think, I mean, everyone there wanted to play. I mean, a couple guys went D1, but as the time went on while I was there, it became more of what can I get the most out of this?
Right.
What's there for me? Because it's a reality check for a lot of guys, and even guys right now in high school, a lot of BC guys going prep. There's so many different prep schools now. That's the thing, and realizing that's not the end or be all, man. I mean, there's so many different leagues you can go to, different levels. It doesn't necessarily have to be fucking D1 or
Yeah, and is it a reality check in the sense that a lot of guys, these young guys that are going in there maybe have unrealistic expectations, or maybe they have this like overinflated sense of their own skill.
but-
Like maybe they're not as good as they think they are, right?
And I think every kid should want to have those high hopes and dreams of playing D1. I mean, go like kids now, like I've coached a lot of kids telling me like, yo, I want to go D1.
Because you should aim high, right?
Yeah,
of course you got it.
Okay, cool. Like, what do you? Okay, so, all right, you want to go D1? Okay, so, what are you gonna like? You got to understand that like going D1, especially from BC, it's getting better and better. There's more and more guys going D1, but you got to understand. Okay, like, what does a D1 program need? Like kids don't realize that when coaches recruit, they recruit based on what they need, right? Like if they know they have a 5th-year center about to graduate, they're going to go to games with the hopes of finding their next center.
Right.
Even though you are a 6'2" guard,
Right.
and you're a point guard or shooting guard, and you're going off, they'll look at you and be like, oh, wow, this kid's a hooper. They might be interested in you, but they're not your number one priority because, like I said, they are looking for a center to take the senior spot, right? And they already got a 3rd-year guard or a 4th-year guard going to their senior or junior year, right?
But that's got to be frustrating though, right?
Yeah, and I mean, dude, like a lot of guys, like I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is a moment of honesty.
Please.
I was a little sheepish when people asked me, "Oh, how was prep school? Like, what did you get out of it?" I came back and played at Cap, I played at Langara, I played Pac West. So people are like looking at me, "Oh, well, what was the point of you going to prep school? Oh, you just wasted a year. Oh, you think you were really good. You thought you were gonna like achieve all these goals." I'm like, okay, cool. Well, the things I learned, the intangibles and the experiences I had in prep school, I wouldn't trade. I would do it again. I would 100,000,000% do it again. Are you kidding me? Dude, like, I mean, I don't even know, like the some of the slang I used today, some of the ways I dress was a complete, it was like a complete reason to the fact that I went to prep school. I mean, just in terms of getting out of my shell, exploring who I am, stepping out of my boundaries as a person, talking a different way, thinking of things a different way. I mean, dude, like the experiences outside of basketball that I got from prep school, unmatched, man. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I would do it again. For the longest time, I would look back and be like, damn, like, did I get the most out of prep school? Could I have done something different? Could I just like have gone to a different school and played right away and not wasted a year? But man, like one of my best friends, he's from that prep school. If I never went there, I would have never met him. I would have never had him make the logo. I wouldn't have traveled to different places and then hung out with him, partied, and done the most, right? Like,
well, I think what you're saying is really important because we all have to make certain life choices, and obviously going to this prep school was a pivotal moment in your life. Obviously you experienced a lot of personal growth, which is great. But we all make these choices, and for better or worse, you just have to deal with them. And it's very easy to beat yourself up and think about, well, what if I had done this or had taken this other path? But it's like you wouldn't be the same person.
No,
you had to go through that.
Can I say?
Yeah,
sorry.
absolutely.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I think no one should be ashamed of. I'm talking in terms of basketball players and high school kids right now. No one should be ashamed of saying they want to go D1 and really strive to play at the highest level and go to prep school and try out. Go try it out. I mean, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work and you come back and you play here, at least you can say you made that step. Right. You took that chance. You had the courage and go do it, and it didn't work out. Cool. A lot of people like, don't have the courage and go do it. Don't feel like they don't have that that confidence to be like, oh fuck, should I go to prep school? Should I travel and go live somewhere else for a year or two and see what I can do with it? It's scary, and I get it. Like it's a big risk. It is.
Well, that's why
because there's a lot of money too, right? Like you got to pay.
Absolutely,
you got to pay to go to these prep schools. It's not free,
it's not cheap,
unless you're freaking a 5-star recruit from.
You get some can you get scholarships fully paid?
You can, but I think there was
that's
some.
Probably rare, right?
It was some things with international, and
it's hard. Do you have to get a work visa to go down there to go to school for a year?
No, there was. I mean, I didn't have schooling, but there was a prep. There was like SAT and ACT prep courses that we took, but I mean, we didn't really give a fuck to be honest about those. We really But back to my point, man. Like I think kids are getting more confident. Kids are actually like stepping out of their comfort zones and doing these things. But I think a lot of kids don't get what they want when they go to prep school, don't get the offers that they want, or they completely, they think it's going to be a certain way, but then they realize it's not, and they come back here and they're all shriveled up and, walking on eggshells talking about it. It's like, no, man, embrace it. Embrace the fact that you went and did this thing that a lot of people wouldn't do, and it just didn't work out, or you learned something else and you're taking a different path now, right? Like, dude, like, I don't think, and I'm going to be completely honest, if I didn't go to prep school and have those experiences, talk and connect with so many different people from different places and different attitudes, I wouldn't be here sitting here having a podcast.
Oh, you think, wow. You think that this
I'm
wouldn't
telling
exist?
you, it was literally the moment I could. There's a few moments in my life where I can look back on and say this was a turning point. That is one of them, for sure.
It's interesting that you say that, and I want to go more into the podcast thing, because I admire somebody that doesn't have any experience, that just wants to try this kind of thing, because it's hard. I mean, from experience now, 4 years in, how much work this is to do this on a consistent basis. And I know before you and I started working together, you weren't super consistent at the beginning, and then you started, like, something changed, and we just started doing this a lot more. So to put in that amount of time to grind like that, and you could perhaps even, it's analogous to anything that you want to do that you're passionate about. It is a grind, right? It's like when you want to be an all-star athlete, it's a grind. You got to put in the amount of hours. You want to be a great boxer, you got to put in the hours. You want to be a great broadcaster, you got to put in the hours. You got to work on your voice. You got to work on your craft. And obviously you've been doing that. I mean, I remember what you were like when you came in here. You'd be full of anxiety, just like in your your body language. I could see it, be pacing. And you come in here, and you're like a totally different person now, and you've evolved. So, like, how do you see your own progression over the last 4 years? Why are you still doing this?
Like back to what I was saying before, like how there's so many conversations and experiences I've had of just talking and hanging out with friends, and I always thought to myself, this would be really cool if I had recorded this or had it on video, right? And around 2018, 2019, I started figuring out podcasting, and that's a thing, and people post it and people make money off of it, and this is something that is a thing and people do, right? And so with that, like, there was a little seed that was planted, and it took a while for me to take that step in starting it. And particularly when Kobe passed away, I don't know why, it kind of just made me think, okay, like, I'm just gonna do it, right? I think to start, man, I was just happy with starting a podcast. Like, that was the first level, right? Like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start it. This is a big step. Cool. Now I can just chill for a bit. Like, that. This was such a big step, such a leap of faith that I did it. Now I can, like, take a quick, deep breath before I go to the next level, whatever that is, right? So it started off, like, I came to you, bought some mics, did a couple podcasts, fucked up the audio a few times, had no idea what I was doing, right? Like, that was the toughest part too, like, just like the technical shit of it. Like,
people
damn
for people that are listening to this or watching this, and they're thinking about starting a podcast, a lot of people don't really appreciate the amount of effort and technical knowledge involved to get it to sound and look. Especially, here's the thing: you're gonna do one thing where you're not on camera. That's one very different thing from getting cameras in the room. Then you're thinking about, how do you look on camera? What does the set look like? All these little things that you got to worry about, like lighting. Are you going to do more than one camera? Are you doing multicam like we do here, where you got to cut different camera angles? So now you got to have a lot more knowledge. Like, it's very involved, and people don't appreciate that. And there's a lot of people putting out crap. I will just say it that way. And it's really tough. So to be able to do this every
hot dog shit.
Yeah. So, like, the kind of
okay.
stuff
So let me get back to my story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. I started it, and like I said, man, like, the first level of it was, okay, just to start the podcast. Like, that was a big obstacle, a big hurdle.
Can you pull that microphone closer?
That was a big hurdle that I had to get over, right?
Sure.
Because it's scary. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, because you become self-conscious, right?
Yeah,
especially if you're looking at yourself.
So, started off as a basketball podcast. I was just happy with doing an episode every month.
Yeah.
I was just like, yo, this is great. Like, I'm putting out an episode every month. I thought that was enough, right? Like, I thought that was just.
What does that mean, basketball podcast?
Well, I just had mostly basketball guests on.
Okay, so players,
coaches,
athletes, coaches, that kind of stuff.
And yeah, because I mean, I was still really in that lifestyle of basketball, and that was so my thing still, that I was just like, okay, well, it would make sense to just do basketball right now, okay?
Unless people are friends with you, there may be people listening that actually don't realize that you've actually coached basketball. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, cheers. So, like I said, like, the first year, I was just like, cool. I'm putting out a podcast. I'm putting out an episode every month, few weeks, whatever. Also, like, one thing I want to say, when people say like they want to start a podcast or they want to do YouTube or do whatever creative, it's like, okay, you want to do that, but I'm not going to be the guy to say don't do it. But you got to like ask yourself, like, are you good? Like, are there any implications that you could be good at it? You know what I'm saying? Like, people have always told me, and I'm not here to like pump my own tires right now, but people have always told me like, oh, Mo, like you're a good talker, you like dialogue, you're good in conversation, right? You're nice at listening. And I used to have a call center job where I would answer phones for people. Like, it was a pretty serious matter. It was people that were booking for the vaccine, right? And that was my job. I would book them for the vaccine. So they're all pretty stressed and high alert, right? Like, they're like, fucking book me right now. Where the fuck are you? Like, and I live in where, like, give me a fucking appointment. I'm like, okay, chill, you know? And about 5, 6 or 7 times at the end of the call, the person would tell me, you have a really nice voice. Like, you have a radio voice. And these are people that I don't know. I haven't seen ever. I will never see ever. And they just, you know, would give me a comment. Oh, by the way, like, you know, you have a really nice voice, like a radio voice. And I would just leave saying, oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay. Good luck with everything. I hope your vaccine goes well. Goodbye. So, you know how, like I said, like that seed was planted? These little things, like these little compliments and these little things was like water being given to the seed. Like, oh, okay, the ball started to roll a little bit, started to move. I'm like, okay, like this is interesting. People are starting to notice it. And it's weird. As soon as I started thinking of starting a podcast, these people started saying that about my voice. And it's kind of like weird how that works because, you know, it's directly the path I wanted to go down on, right? And I was thinking about it.
Right. So like all these external
yeah, and
forces
saying,
are just pushing
like,
you in the direction.
Me in the direction like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like I could do it, right? Like I have the intangibles of having a nice voice. Or
did that give you confidence at all?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, those were little things that pushed me to start it, right? Because I was like, okay, like people are noticing these things. People are saying, oh, you have a nice voice, Mo. You have a radio voice. Literally what a podcast is, broadcasting, radio, right? So I would say, like, for people, especially like for people that want to start podcasts or do whatever creative, it's like, okay, what do you like and what are you good at? Like, will you be good at it at podcasting? Like, do you think you will be, right? Like, you can work at it. Like, I'm way better as a host than a podcaster since I was like 3 years ago, right? Like, you can get better and work on it, but it's like, it's cool to, it's nice to have these little hints and these little nudges to make you do it, right? Okay, so,
and just remember, just before you go into that, just remember too, like, we're only 80, this is episode 81, right? So this is still, you're still pretty new at this.
Fresh, yeah.
You know, and a lot of content creators, like all the successful ones that are making millions of dollars that I've seen on YouTube, you know what they say to everybody? When people ask for advice, they say the first 200 episodes, just come to terms with the first 200 episodes are going to be garbage. Like, flat out, you will not get good until you put in a considerable amount of time. And it's sad to me when I see people give up on this. You know, I see people do 12 episodes and they're just like, it's too much.
Yeah.
I'm too busy.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're not going to get good at anything doing that.
So okay.
back to you. What you were saying.
Yeah. So even I would say, man, like these big time YouTubers and podcasters saying that the first 200, just because, let's say you put out the 200th episode and you're still shit, who cares? Maybe it's the 300th, maybe it's the 400th. I don't think like that little finish line of, okay, once I get the 200th episode out, I'm gonna be good. It's like, nah, like, you know, it could very well be the 250th, 300th, you know. So that, like,
it's not black and white like that. It's like, you don't just suddenly become really good. It's like, you'll be better.
And you can always get better. You can always get better.
And you're always going to get better. Exactly.
Okay. So then after like a year of doing episodes of basketball and sort of guys in the athletic field or whatever. I really wanted to venture out into different things like lifestyle, personal growth, mental health. And a lot of people, including yourself, would tell me, well, okay, you got to have a niche. Like, what's your niche, Mo? Like, when someone listens to the podcast, what are you going to tell them? And I say, well, it's everything. I mean, I bridge things between personal growth, mental health, dating, and whatever. And till this day, I mean, you tell me like, well, you got to have some sort of like direction towards the podcast. And we do. I think we do. And I've always, so many people told me that, like, what's the crowd? What's the audience you want to target, right? What's the niche? And I'm like, well, there's an episode for every person, right? Like we've had civil engineers on. I'm not expecting
so is that the pitch? Because like if I ask you, and I'm just curious what you think about this. So if I ask you, if I'm a listener, what's in it for me? Why should I listen to your podcast? You don't know me from anywhere. Why should I listen?
Well, because there is going to be an episode for you, and just the way we talk about things, just me being a host, it's entertaining. And I think that no matter who you are and what you're into, or whatever the fuck you're feeling, there's going to be an episode for you. It may not be the one with civil engineers or the one where we talk about mental health, but there is one out there, whether it's going to be for dating or freaking comedy or whatever, right? There's an episode for everyone. And I'm not expecting guys that want dating advice because they're really down bad to be listening to civil engineering episode and be like, wow, okay, I learned how to pick up a fucking chick today. No, I'm not expecting that. And that's not how it works. But
I like that because I think also a lot of podcasters, they're trying to do this where they're trying to sort of figure out like, what am I about? What is this show about? They're so concerned about the people that are subscribing have to watch and listen to every single episode. And I think what I'm hearing from you is it doesn't have to be that way. Like you're saying, like,
and to be honest,
there's going to be an episode for everyone. If it's not this episode, it's another one, right?
And to be honest, man, I just want to do what I want to do. Just what makes me happy. Like, I don't want to cater to an audience. It makes sense on a marketing and business standpoint, but I just want to talk to people that I want to talk to, and I just want to talk about things that I want to talk.
Well, I think that's a good approach because I think it's more authentic that way. Yeah, because people, you know, I talk to people all the time. They're just so focused. Oh, I gotta make money.
Here's the thing, dude. You're not a fan of the UFC episodes, but for me, I enjoy watching UFC, having a few drinks with my friends, and just shooting the shit. Like for me, that's enjoyable, and I actually feel like I'm getting better as a podcaster doing those episodes, doing those commentaries, right? So now, okay, let's fast forward to year 2. Year 2, I meet you. We have this amazing production. We're working here, and it's still very sporadic. Like we'll do an episode and not do an episode for a month, and then do an episode and then do one the week after, and then go like a month and a half not do an episode. And then I remember the exact moment it flipped for me was around New Year's, Christmas time of 2022. When did we have Migo on the podcast? Do you remember? Was it 20?
I'd have to look that up. That was a while ago. That was at least a year. I'd have to look that up.
2023, maybe.
I'll look it up while you keep talking.
And something just flipped. I sort of made the decision to just go for it all I can, because anything I do, man, anything I do in this life, anything I think is worth doing and I'm interested in, I go all out. And I think a part of me was a little upset and felt guilty for not putting my everything into this podcast. I sort of realized I didn't like the fact that I was kind of just like coasting in it, and I still wanted to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was something where I'm like, fuck this, I don't want to do it anymore. Like it's not really my thing. I'm not really into it anymore. I'd be like, can it? And I'll tell you, I'd be like,
and you think it was 2022?
2022, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I just checked. So that episode with Migo, the boxer / mixed martial artist, that was January 10th, 2023. So it's a little over a year.
Little over.
So it was
a year.
right before that where you felt like that was the change.
That was the flip. And then I think from that moment on, I think I just took the role of, okay, I'm going to do everything I can with this craft to be the best I can be. And from that, I think my passion grew for it. Because a lot of people think that there should be this like burning passion to start something, like, fuck yeah, like
I hate
podcast.
See, I don't like that.
You don't need to be like head over heels, like, yeah, fuck, I'm gonna be a YouTuber, I'm gonna make music, yes. Like, no, like,
too much of that.
I enjoyed talking to people. I enjoyed having hangouts and busting each other's balls and listening, talking, having conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that I was like, yes, I fucking love talking to you, buddy. Like, you are so funny. No, I was just, this is something I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make something out of it because, and then from that, man, like, I've been looking at this as like a passion, like a job. Like, I watch different podcasts. I listen to different podcasts. I get things from different podcasts. The way different podcasters speak, their tonality.
I was going to ask you about that. Who inspires you? Oof. Like who do you look up to? Like who's doing this type of thing that you kind of model? Maybe not even model yourself after, but who inspires you?
Chris D'Elia, Brendan Schaub. Bobby Lee, Lex Friedman, Theo Vaughn, Bill Simmons.
Theo's
great. I mean,
that guy's unique.
And you know, from, like I said, man, like from that now, it's also, dude, it's fun, man. It's fun to, like, every time I come here, every time I'm driving here, I'm in a good mood. Like I'm telling myself this is something cool that I'm doing. This is something that I love talking about this right now. Like, this is so fucking
really
cool for me.
I'm glad you're sharing that because you don't really tell me about how you feel when you get here. We kind of just get into it right away. So that makes me happy.
And to be fair, man, like, credit to you, dude. Like, I feel very comfortable with you, right? Like, I think I don't really see you as a producer anymore. I see you as a friend. I mean, you know how comfortable I am with you. I sometimes put my hand down my pants and just, like, chill there, right? And you tell me, well, Mo, why you?
I'll take that as a compliment.
Why are you putting your hand down your pants?
Well, I mean, my goal is, I try to make everybody feel super comfortable when they be here, accommodate people as best as they can, make coffee, make them feel relaxed, especially with guests. I mean, it's one thing for you, but, too, I want to make the guests feel like they, like they're going to have a good conversation, that we're not going to put them on the spot, make them say something weird or uncomfortable, or, you know what I mean? So thank you. I appreciate that.
No, and I think one of the things that I had trouble with, and I still do, I'm not going to say I'm totally immune from it, but was I had this, like, unrealistic expectation that every single person is going to love every single episode that I put out. Right? Like, I had this it's like sort of saying, like, if you go into boxing, I'm never going to get hit. I'm never going to get punched in the face. I'm never going to get hit in the face, which is fucking asinine.
That's insane.
That's insane,
I have
right?
that thought.
So
yeah,
a few times I remember, like earlier episodes, people would comment, like, this is the worst podcast ever. This is shit. And it would take me back.
I know, you gotta have a thick, you gotta just ignore that.
Like, in my head, I'm like, dude, like, everyone's supposed to like this. Everyone's supposed to enjoy this. Everyone's supposed to find something out of this and think it's the greatest podcast ever. But that's not even remotely close to the reality.
No, it's not realistic at all.
And until I accepted that, and I accepted and was willing to sit in that, I think I wasn't as free with it. But now,
and I can see the change in you too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a sense of me. The only thing that's really, like, still with me is my self-criticism, like, of how I am, and just being hard on myself, and how it can be.
No, but I
better.
think that's okay because it shows that you care about what you do.
Yeah.
You want this to be good. Because I think if you didn't care about this, you just phone it in. Like it would be obvious that you didn't want to be here.
No, 100%. And it's freeing too, man, because one of the things I'm learning and one of the things I'm getting out of this now is when people comment hateful comments or talk shit, I'm kind of just like, okay, well, I don't know. It doesn't
faze you.
It doesn't faze me. It's like, okay, well, the ones that hate, I don't know who said this, but the ones that hate are like really loud. They're the loudest. Like the guys that most of the people that support you are the most quiet, right? They don't comment as much. They're not out there and and just talking all the time and posting things. But the small amount of haters that are there are the loudest. So it makes it look like there's more haters than there are supporters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, man, I think I'm not saying I don't think I'm talented in this, but I'm working hard, man. I'm really, really part of that. And to be honest, and you know, it's cool to see when I go out sometimes and people are like, "Oh, you're the podcast guy," or "Oh shit, like I saw that episode, it was fucking dope," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, like cool, thank you." Like I still find it so weird when people do that. I don't even know what to say. I'm just like, yeah,
it was weird.
They're just like, dude, they're just like,
it happens to me too. Once
bro,
in a
they're
while.
just like, bro, they're just like, "Oh, you're the podcast guy." I'm like, yeah. They're just like, "Oh, dude, like it's sick." I'm like, yeah, dude. I don't know, like it is cool. Like I guess it's you know, I'm doing it. It's just you can do it too. It's whatever. I mean, but I think and man, there are still times where my creative juices are just at a fucking plateau where, you know, there's weeks where I'm like, God damn it, like it's tough to think of anything creative to say or to go in and just talk. You just don't feel it sometimes, and that's fine too, right? Like I think what this process and this journey's taught me is that everything is just up and down. It's a whole wave, right? And it's during the moments of feeling less creative and having that like less juice is when you have to go in and talk. Like there's been episodes with me and you where we didn't have a guest and we were talking, and I knew at the back of my head like it was going to be a pretty tame podcast of just talking, but in my head I'm like, I got to do it. I need to do it. Because if I feel like, whenever I feel like I just don't want to talk, I'm not going to just say, oh, I'm not going to go in and do I'm not going to do an episode. I'm just going to do it. No matter how god awful it is, no matter how boring it is, I got to do it, right?
Well, let me ask you this, because we're running out of time here. What is next for you? What do you see the next sort of the evolution of this show? What do you want to do next? Is it just a certain type of guest, certain caliber of guest you want to have? I mean, obviously, I know you wanted to have Chris D'Elia here when he was in town, you know, on the podcast. We didn't quite get there, but we did manage to actually interview him quickly at the end of his show when he was here in town. So what's next? Like, what are your aspirations? What do you want to do with this show?
I want to go as much as I can because I'm in it, man. I'm in it now. And I think for me to say I want a guy like Drake on, or I want a guy of that caliber, why does that sound insane? Why is that crazy, right? I think.
So you think there's enough momentum now where you can't stop at this point? You're just gonna keep
yeah,
going.
I'm too far gone in this. It's at the point of no return at this point. I think that
it's kind of a good feeling when you get to that point, isn't it? When you come to that realization, like you think it's you realize after you do this for a few years that it's a slog, that it's a grind, it's hard work to show up every day, to be present, show up for your audience and do a good job, the best job that you can possibly do. But when you kind of push, because I've experienced this too in my life with certain things that I do, where I do something for years and years, and then it's like every week I do it, I'm like, why I'm asking myself in my mind, why am I doing this? This is so much work. Why am I showing up and doing this? And then you kind of just get past that at some point. Like you said, you're at the point of no return, and you realize, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this, and we have enough listeners now where I feel like I could show up every week. This doesn't even feel like a job to me. This is something that I actually enjoy. Actively, like you probably look forward to coming here every week and talking to someone new and interesting, right?
I think I got to be mindful of the fact that if I get 100,000 listeners or 2, that I have my core values intact and why I want to do this. And that just goes to, I want to help people. I enjoy doing this. I like dialogue, and I like being creative and pushing myself outside the box. Like I think one of the coolest things that I've gained from this process and this creative journey is I'm always trying to like push myself. So like one of the things that I wanted to do for a while was do street interviews, right? And it was tough. Like it was scary. Like I went out a few times and I didn't get any interviews because I just didn't have the cojones to approach.
I admire that you did that, because honestly, I don't think I could.
Yeah,
I'm a very introverted person. For me to go up to a stranger in the street and just shove a microphone in their face, start asking them questions, I can't do that.
It's not like natural by any means. Like, and the last couple times I've gone, I can feel that it's getting easier and easier. And you know what's weird? You know what's funny? So doing episodes, doing the podcast, that was really scary, right? And now we're on episode 81. Now that fear is starting to go away, right? That anxiety. So in my head, I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing I can do to push myself out of the comfort zone? Street interviews. And it's something I've been wanting to do, right? God damn, that was tough. The first couple times I went, I completely ate shit. Completely, dude. Like it was bad. Like if I saw myself doing it, if I saw myself doing that, I'd be like, that guy's a freaking loser. Like what is that guy doing, right? But now I've gone a couple times now, and I've gone to interviews. I'm starting to feel the same way. Like it's still there. Like anxiety's still fucking there, 100%. But I'm starting to feel like me becoming more comfortable with it. So then it's cool, because now after I get completely comfortable with that, or really comfortable with that, what's the next thing that I want to do that makes me get out of my comfort zone? What's the next thing after that? What's the next thing after that? And then I think that's like the gradual flow of like the snowball effect of just, okay, you know, you got to keep branching out. You got to keep innovating. You got to keep pushing yourself, right? And I think, I don't know, man, I just feel like I'm a guy that has always wanted that. And I think a quote, it's corny as hell, but like a quote from Peaky Blinders where Tommy Shelby was talking to one of the many girls he was hooking up with, and she asked him, I don't remember what the context was, but she was like, Tommy, do you not want a simple life, or do you like a simple life? And then Tommy replied by just saying, do I look like a man that wants a simple life? And you know, I think that's just how I am. I'm an absolute dynamo. I'm a fucking go-getter. I'm a go-getter.
Look, I got one more question before we wrap. Can I get you to scooch over? You drifted away from them. Now you're going off frame there.
Dude, I really enjoy this. I think we got to do more of this. I really do.
Absolutely.
I think you being a host and I putting on my guest hat on is one of the hottest things I've done in the past few months.
I really enjoyed the time that we had today. Listen, last question. I'm going to leave this with you to have the last word. But you know, you talked about just now getting out of your comfort zone, doing these uncomfortable, you know, street interviews where you're asking strangers questions, and a lot of them say no, and you get, you know, 8 no's out of 10, you know. But do you feel that it has made you, like all this stuff that you've been doing, you know, 4 years of getting on a microphone, talking to to people, interviewing them, and then doing these street interviews with strangers. Do you feel that that has given you more confidence? Has that improved your communication skills outside of the work that you do here in your personal life? Whether it's talking to coworkers, friends, family, do you feel like all these skills that you've been building up over the last 4 or 5 years, do you feel like that's actually made some kind of impact outside of the podcast?
100 million percent. 100 million percent, man. I think that I've become better as a conversationalist. I've learned the nuances of when to be quiet and let someone else talk, and, you know, when to switch the subject or just have better eye contact. Like, these are things that are applicable to life. Like, podcasting literally is a life thing, a life skill that every single human being should have, right? So there's so many parallels to real life in podcasting that, you know, I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm doing what I love. Like, I love doing this. I enjoy doing this, and I'm becoming a better communicator outside of it, right? And I mean, it is what it is, and like I said, people can hate, and I'm not good. Like, I still don't think I'm good, man. I still don't think I'm good at it, and that's...
Well, I think it's healthy to have that humble nature, and, you know, certainly, like I said, I've seen your personal growth. Your you know, I've seen you evolve as a human being. You've become less nervous. Like you said, you've worked on just knowing when to be quiet, just shut your mouth, let the guest talk, which is hard. Look, this kind of stuff is really hard. People like to talk, and we're not always great listeners. And sometimes, you know, and I'm not singling you out specifically. I'm just saying in general, sometimes, and I've had to work on this too, you're just waiting for that person to finish their sentence so you could just get in the next word. And so we're not really practicing active listening. And I know that's something that you've been working on, and it's great to see you doing that.
And dude, honestly, like, for one of the things I didn't talk about is, dude, this is therapeutic to me. Like, coming in and talking, especially when we have freaking counselors and mental health therapists and mental health guests on, I feel like a weight has been taken off my shoulders after each episode. Like, people don't realize, like, I don't know, for me it's podcast, for me it's doing this, and it's we're in it now. We're in it, man.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this has been great. I had a really good time. I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to turn out, but I thought, you know, this turned out better than I expected. I got to know you a little bit more as a person as well, and I look forward to doing more shows with you. And look, to everyone listening and watching, we're going to consider this is just a bonus episode. This is a little bit veering off the path of the typical content and interviews that we do. So we're going to consider this a bonus. Hopefully you get something out of it. And look, if you've, if you're wanting to start a podcast or you've been thinking about it yourself, hopefully some of the advice that Mo gave you, serves you well.
Just straight up, like, I'm not like a mogul. I'm not like a mastermind in podcasting. I still don't think I'm good, but I'm working towards it, right? But, like, if you want to do it. Like, no one's stopping you. No one really gives a shit. And the people that hate, it's like, hey, dude, like, you're a dweeb. You're a freaking dweeb. Straight up, you're a freaking lame bozo. Complete bozo. So...
All right. Well, enjoy your 24, episode 81. We had podcaster Mo on the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Enjoy Your 24. That's with one.
I'm going to be so late for work.
That's okay. It was a good show.